Do you think superheroes only exist in comic books and movies? Think again. What if I told you there are real people out there with crazy superhuman abilities? People performing heroic feats that'll make you question reality, like this dude who climbed to a fourth-floor balcony to save a kid. Still don't believe me? Then you'd better keep watching, because I've got undeniable proof that real-life superheroes walk among us. 10. Fire at Manhattan. You've probably heard about that super busy spot in Manhattan, right smack in the center of New York City, right? Well, something incredible happened there. Over at 429 East 52nd Street on a regular Saturday morning, things took a crazy turn. Around 10:30 a.m., out of nowhere, a fire started up on the 20th floor of this tall building. But the heroes of this story? The firefighters. These guys are seriously incredible. They're ready for anything, anytime.
An amazing job. You saw the life-saving rope rescue. That is a last resort.
And this fire? It was no small deal. They had to jump into action with this super risky plan to save people who were in big trouble. There was this one person, Christina Foti, who was in a really bad spot. Her apartment was all filled with smoke, and she couldn't breathe or see anything. She had to go stand on the window ledge to try to catch some fresh air. The smoke was so bad inside that she had to squeeze onto this tiny ledge for what felt like forever until the firefighters showed up. They used ropes to climb up the building and reached Foti, saving her. What a relief. And guess what? They didn't stop there. They saved 16 people from that fire. The fire department did an outstanding job. After everything calmed down, it turned out that 38 people got hurt, and that included 5 firefighters. Some of them inhaled too much smoke, which is super dangerous. The fire was caused by a lithium battery in an e-bike, reminding us that unexpected stuff can happen anytime in the city. 9. Real-life Spider-Man. Bringing those amazing stories where ordinary people end up doing extraordinary things, like saving someone from a dangerous situation.
The kids are in here.
Well, I've got one that tops them all, and it happened in Mesa, Arizona. Let me tell you about this police officer.
You couldn't see anybody or anything in front of you. It was just completely grayed out.
He sees a house on fire and realizes there are children stuck inside. Without wasting any time, he starts throwing rocks at the windows to break them. The situation is intense. You can hear the children yelling for help, and it's incredibly gripping. Suddenly, this regular guy rushes in. He's not dressed in any special equipment or anything. He looks like any person you might see on the street. Yet, he climbs over a fence, uses an air conditioner as a step, and breaks the window to reach the kids. He keeps going until he's rescued all of them, and guess what? He saved those children. No drama, no seeking attention, just doing what was necessary. It was like witnessing a moment of real-life Spider-Man at work. Those who saw it were astounded.
To the citizen who was back there, he was at the car wash minding his own business.
Running into a burning house without any protective gear is incredibly brave. After the rescue, both children were rushed to the hospital with officers and paramedics at their side. Thankfully, they're expected to be okay. 4 officers also ended up going to the hospital with minor injuries but have since been released. 8. The Special Blood. Now let's talk about a man named James Harrison, an ordinary guy from Australia who began donating blood when he was only 18 years old. Little did he know, his blood had something super special in it. It took a while, but by the mid-1960s, doctors realized how amazing his blood was. James had this special thing in his blood that could fight a dangerous health issue in newborn babies. It's called rhesus disease. This happens when a mom's blood type doesn't match her baby's, and her body starts fighting the baby's blood. It can be really serious for the baby, causing sickness or even worse. But here's where James becomes a hero. His blood could be used to make a medicine called Anti-D, which stops this disease in its tracks. This was a big deal because babies could be born healthy and moms wouldn't have to worry so much. They started calling him the man with the golden arm because he didn't just donate blood a few times. He kept at it, donating once a week for many years until 2018. He gave blood more than 1,000 times. Thanks to him, over 2.4 million babies have been saved. That's right, each dose of the Anti-D medicine given to a mom to protect her baby has a little bit of James's heroic blood in it. Isn't that incredible? James's simple act of donating blood turned out to be a lifesaver for millions of babies around the world. 7. Driver asleep. One day, something unbelievable happened right on the Atlanta interstate during the busiest time, rush hour. So, there was this truck crawling along the highway. And guess what? The driver wasn't awake. He had passed out behind the wheel. Now you might be wondering what happened next. Well, a bunch of regular people saw the driver was in trouble. They didn't stop to think about it. They just jumped into action to help out. They had to get to the driver who was having a serious medical problem. It wasn't going to be easy, but they were determined. Their tools? Not what you'd expect. A sledgehammer, a car jack, and even a baby stroller. First, they tried to get the driver's attention, asking him to open the windows. But time was running out, and with the driver not responding, they had to do something more drastic. To anyone passing by, it might have looked like a scene of chaos as they started to break into the truck with their tools. It was a critical situation, and they were doing whatever it took to help. Meanwhile, lots of people started filming the whole thing. There was this guy, Jordan Carter, capturing it all on video. And then Jelani Campbell did something super brave. He climbed onto the moving truck with a sledgehammer and smashed the back window. And that move was a game changer. It allowed him to open the door from the inside so they could finally reach the driver just as the ambulance was arriving. Later, one of these brave souls even contacted the driver's wife to reassure her that her husband was on his way to the hospital. The driver, whose name we don't know, thankfully recovered. This was all because of the fast and bold actions of these real-life heroes who showed their bravery without needing any special outfits. 6. Stopped World War III. You know James Blunt, right? Yeah, the guy who sang "You're Beautiful." But guess what? Before he became a music sensation, he lived a different life. Back in 1999, he was an officer in the British Army.
We deploy to the Balkans. We don't know how long for, and we don't know what our job is yet.
Making tough decisions that would later be remembered, but not for his music. After the Kosovo War, there was a tricky situation where soldiers from both Russia and NATO, a group of countries working together for peace, were trying to keep things calm, so fighting wouldn't start again. But then, the Russians decided to take over the Pristina airport on their own, which was a big deal because that airport was really important for NATO to communicate and work effectively in Kosovo. When James Blunt and his soldiers got there, they found the Russians already in charge. The air was thick with tension, and it looked like there might be a fight, especially because the NATO troops were ordered to take the airport back by force. But Blunt thought this was a bad idea. He believed that attacking could make things worse with the Russians and mess up the peace that was barely holding up after the war. Blunt's choice to not follow that order was a big risk for him. He could have been in serious trouble for not listening to a direct command from a U.S. Army general. But he stood by his decision, believing it was the right thing to do to avoid more conflict. Luckily, another general agreed with him, seeing how risky it would be to move forward with the attack. So before he was a pop star, James Blunt made a brave choice in a tense moment that could have sparked World War III. It's a part of his life story that's about a lot more than just music. 5. From the 5th floor? In a busy part of eastern China, something unexpected happened that turned an average guy into a hero. His name is Shen Dong, and you might not have heard of him, but he played the main role in a breathtaking moment. It all started with a little 2-year-old girl in a terrifying situation. She accidentally fell from a window on the 5th floor, and for a moment, a metal roof stopped her fall. But then she kept falling towards the ground. It was a heart-stopping moment. Shen Dong, just a regular person walking by, saw what was happening. He worked in a bank nearby and was with a co-worker when he saw the girl falling. Without wasting a second, Shen knew he had to act. He threw his phone aside and ran to save her, driven by an instinct. He got there just in time. Shen caught the girl with his arms wide open. The fall was big, and catching her was hard. But he did it, and because of him, the girl landed safely in his arms instead of hitting the ground. After that, they rushed the girl to the hospital. Thankfully, she was okay with only minor injuries. It turns out the little girl climbed on a stool and fell out of the window by accident. When people asked Shen about what he did, he was very humble. He said he hardly remembered feeling any pain because of the adrenaline. He insisted that he was just in the right place at the right time and that anyone else would have done the same. There's a sweet twist to the story. The girl, Xingxin, shares both the name and characters with Shen's daughter, which makes this rescue even more special for him. Chinese media called him the bare-handed baby-catching hero, and he has been flooded with love and support online. People even said he deserved an award and a new phone to replace the one he lost during the rescue. While a few skeptics are wondering if such a catch was possible, the majority are in awe of Shen's quick action and bravery. 4. The brave coach. So, there was this heart-pounding moment at a high school cafeteria that showed the quick thinking and bravery of a basketball coach. This coach, Coach Heuser, who you'd usually find making game plans on the court, turned out to be saving the day during lunch. Now we have Riley Kelly, a freshman who was just looking to enjoy a classic cheeseburger. Little did he know, his lunch was about to become quite a scary experience. You see, cheeseburgers, which are usually no big deal, became a real problem for Kelly. While everyone was chatting and eating, he suddenly choked on a piece of his burger. Trying to get it out with a sip of milk didn't help at all. The whole cafeteria was bustling and didn't notice what was happening until Kelly desperately needed help. That's when Coach Heuser jumped in. It's like sometimes heroes are not the ones in capes, but those who know exactly what to do in an emergency. Coach Heuser, with all the coolness and focus you'd see in a tight game moment, performed the Heimlich maneuver. Just a few quick moves from him, and that troublesome piece of burger was out, letting Kelly breathe again. Kelly was super thankful to Coach Heuser, especially since they hadn't even met before this happened. Coach Heuser, being the humble hero, played it down. Just glad Kelly was okay. Looking back, Kelly realized how unusual and scary his situation was. He had choked like this before, but never this bad. It hit home how important it is to be ready for emergencies like this, even suggesting his family learn the Heimlich maneuver just in case. 3. Mamadou Gassama. In Paris, something terrifying happened that showed the world who Mamadou Gassama is, a real-life hero. Mamadou, who's from Mali in West Africa, became famous almost overnight. On what seemed like a normal day in a suburb of northern Paris, he was just hanging out, watching a soccer match, when he heard a bunch of noise, people yelling and car horns honking. So he followed the commotion and came across a really scary situation. He saw a young kid in danger, dangling from a fourth-floor balcony. Without even pausing to think, Mamadou sprang into action and began climbing the building. He managed to climb up to the balcony and saved the child, who was just moments away from possibly falling. Mamadou later said that he didn't stop to think about what he was doing. He just felt he had to act. And he did all this before the police or firefighters could arrive at the scene. His courage caught the eye of many, including the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Macron was so impressed that he invited Mamadou to the Élysée Palace, which is a pretty big honor. But it didn't stop there. He was offered French citizenship, something he had hoped for since he came to France. It's one of those stories that makes you believe in the goodness of people, you know? 2. Saved from a train. Talking about a very unusual day at a train station, well, one decided to unfold at a train station in India. There was this railway worker, Meyer Schelke, right? Just a regular guy doing his job. But one day, he spotted a boy and his mom walking along the platform. This 6-year-old kid, while not paying attention for just a second, fell off the platform. His mom, who couldn't see, could only shout for help because she couldn't do anything else. That's when Schelke knew what was happening. Without thinking twice about his safety, Schelke ran across the tracks faster than you could believe. He wasn't thinking about the danger to himself at all. He grabbed the kid and got him back to the platform just in time, missing a speeding train by inches. Everyone was amazed by what he did, and he became a bit of a national hero. But that's not all. When the railway ministry gave him an award and some money, around $666, Schelke decided to do something even more awesome. He gave half of that money to the kid he saved to help with his education, since the kid's family didn't have much. At this award thing, he was like, "I'm giving half my award money for the kid's schooling." This generous move put Meyer back in the spotlight, and people on social media couldn't stop talking about how kind and selfless he was. Meyer said that the child he saved is someone's beloved child, and this thought hit home for him, especially since he recently became a father himself. This feeling of empathy made him want to help even more. And honestly, his child must feel so lucky to have a dad like him, almost like having a superhero at home. Flood rescue. Let's take a trip over to Pennsylvania, where something incredibly intense went down. So, there were these massive floods sweeping through the area. We're talking about a real situation here, where 4 people who didn't know each other before ended up being heroes for a family stuck in a really scary situation. Just outside of Philadelphia, there was a dad with his 4 kids in a car, and suddenly they found themselves trapped by rising floodwaters. The car was almost taken away by the water.
Kid, hold on to the kid. We'll get you out, don't worry.
It sounds like something you'd see in a thrilling movie, right? But what stands out is how people can really come together in tough times. One of the heroes, Dan DeGregorio, tells the story in such a vivid way.
The car was actually floating up against the fence. It wasn't touching the ground. We were literally handing the kids down the line and then putting them behind us in the bucket so they were safe.
He talks about how powerful the flood was, almost pulling them into a dangerous spot. Then, out of nowhere, a backhoe, yes, a big construction machine, shows up just in time to help out. Dan and the others didn't waste a moment. They shouted for the dad to stay with the car and prepared to help.
Hold on to that kid. Hold on to the kid. We'll get you out, don't worry.
What happened next really shows how working together and not giving up can make a big difference. They all joined hands, forming a line to get across the water that had flooded the area. Dan, doing his very best, saved the oldest kid first. He even shared his feelings about the whole experience later on. He said, "Even last night, I struggled to sleep because I could still remember how scared he looked when I was holding on to him. Because if I let go, he's gone." The mix of fear, the rush of energy, and the desire to save someone's life made that night one he'll never forget. Now that's a real hero for you. Which of the real-life superheroes caught on camera left you in awe? Share with us which moments of extraordinary bravery and kindness stood out to you in the comments below. And remember to come back for more inspiring stories of everyday heroism.